Is time a straight line? That we are born, grow, and die following a single path with no detours. But that idea is being questioned. While you're listening to this, a future version of yourself might be trying to communicate from the fourth dimension. Physicists, mathematicians, and visionaries no longer doubt it. There are other realities overlapping ours, other forms of life, and some claim to have crossed the threshold into this higher dimension. To understand what it means to access the fourth dimension, we first need to understand what it's like to live in the third. If we observe the different dimensions in which we live, we can begin to see the world in a new way. Imagine standing in a room. In the space around you, you have the ability to move up and down, left and right, and move forward or backward. But what would happen if you moved into another dimension? How would you perceive your surroundings? What would change in your perception of space and time? In the first dimension, we see a line, a simple straight line without height or depth. There is no space to the left or right, just one direction. Like an ant walking along a single thread of a web, it cannot turn or deviate from its path. It lives in a strictly linear world with no alternatives. If the ant decides to move forward, there is no other route but to follow that thread. There is no way to escape or choose a new path. It's a world without options, where movement only happens in one direction with no room to maneuver. In the second dimension, perception expands, but we are still limited to a flat plane. Now the ant can move in two directions, forward and sideways. It moves across a piece of paper, and as it does, its world expands. But still, it cannot go up. If a human finger touches it from above, it can't comprehend this. For it, that finger comes from a higher plane, like a three-dimensional figure suddenly interacting with its two-dimensional world. The ant doesn't understand how or why. That finger is something strange, impossible to explain, as if it were from another dimension. In the third dimension, we see what we know as volume, the world we live in. Here we have three spatial dimensions: height, width, and depth. This allows us to move in all directions, up and down, forward and backward, left and right. We perceive shapes, bodies, and distances, interacting with objects that occupy a defined space. However, despite the spatial complexity, we are still trapped in a single direction of time. We move forward without the possibility of going back or stopping the continuous flow. Time is perceived as linear, preventing us from revisiting past moments or altering our natural course. And here is where the fourth dimension enters. For humans, time seems like a line that can only move forward. However, for some scientists, this conception is incomplete. Time is not separate from space, but part of an inseparable whole, space-time. And what we perceive as a line might just be a part of a much more complex structure, like an ant that only sees the ground, unable to know that there is a sky above it. Similarly, we, in our limited perception, only see a timeline without being able to comprehend the higher dimensions. Time, in reality, might not be a line, but a set of possibilities extending beyond what we can imagine. A being from the fourth dimension could move through this time as if it were a structure they could enter and exit with ease. For time travelers, what we know as past, present, and future would be nothing more than a simple sequence. In their world, temporal restrictions don't exist. They could enter any moment, anywhere, and alter the course of events at will. Imagine a being from the fourth dimension appearing in our three-dimensional reality. Its appearance would be incomprehensible to us. It would be perceived as an incomplete manifestation, something that doesn't fit with our physical laws. Strange lights, figures passing through walls, distortions in space and time. What might seem illogical and puzzling to us would be completely natural for them. In that higher dimension, beings might exist who can enter and exit our reality, moving freely through time. These beings would not be bound by a single temporal line. They would move in all directions through time, without the restriction of a now that imposes itself on them. Some theorists suggest that time travelers are not humans with advanced technology, but extra-dimensional beings whose consciousness is not dependent on a physical body. They might be observing our lives as someone watches a movie. They have the ability to move forward, backward, even intervene in our history. Let's imagine our life as a videotape. We only see the current second. A fourth-dimensional being could see the entire tape, rewind it, pause it, or even enter it at any point, without restrictions. And what might seem casual to us could have a profound impact on the time travelers who view our existence from a much broader perspective. Some unsettling testimonies claim that these beings are already among us. Strange sightings, figures that appear and disappear, objects passing through walls, distortions in the perception of time, all could have an explanation beyond the paranormal. They are not ghosts or spiritual entities. They are visitors from the fourth dimension. And while science is still skeptical, it has already begun to approach them. The fourth dimension could be the next great advance in our understanding of the universe. Perhaps we don't fully understand it yet, but what is clear is that the mystery of time and space is not limited to what we perceive. Perhaps one day, we'll cross that threshold and see the world from a completely new perspective. But it doesn't end there. Some theorists go even further and talk about the fifth dimension, a plane where not only can you travel through time, but also between alternative realities. Every decision we make, every possibility we pass up, creates a new timeline. In the fifth dimension, all these lines coexist. A being from the fifth dimension could not only see your entire life from the outside, like a movie, but also all the possible versions of your existence. What would have happened if you had made different decisions, if you were born elsewhere, or if the world had followed another path? How would we see a being from the fifth dimension? We don't even have the right language to describe it. It would be like trying to get a point to understand a sphere. We would only perceive distortions, a mix of impossible visions, geometric shapes changing form, spaces folding in on themselves, flashes that seem to come from nowhere. Maybe we would see them like mirages reflecting possible futures, or as beings whose presence causes déjà vu, premonitions, or alterations in the perception of time. Some unsettling testimonies claim that these beings are already among us. Strange sightings, figures that appear and disappear, objects passing through walls, distortions in the perception of time, all could have an explanation beyond the paranormal. They are not ghosts or spiritual entities. They are visitors from higher dimensions. And while science is still skeptical, it has already begun to approach them. The fourth and fifth dimensions could be the next great leap in our understanding of the universe. Maybe we don't fully understand them yet, but what's clear is that the mystery of time, space, and existence itself is not limited to what we perceive. Perhaps one day, we will cross that threshold and see the world and ourselves from a completely new perspective.